this is my only shot to go and see him and like have a sign for him to play. I'm thinking to myself, what song do I want him to play? And I thought, one step up would be really cool, but how am I gonna do it? So I went on Google, like I found this really cool picture of him and Patty from on the Tunnel of Love tour, and I said, okay, like how can I make this stand out? And so I went on like a set list forum, and I found the last time he played the song with the full band. And I still remember the date. It was June 21st, 1988. And so I like went on this website. I created this, like half-inch thick cardboard sign. It was like $100 it was well worth it. But
Mhm.
I put I put, can we take a trip back to 88? And then last time played with the full band, June 21st, 1988.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and joining me is a return guest, and it has been way too long. We were
Yes,
talking before we hit record. Matt was here. His episode was out December 15, 2016. Gosh, not much has changed since then, huh?
That's I could say that a lot has definitely changed, but pretty much. But
Yeah.
we're doing good, and it's great to be back. And super fortunate that you've asked me to come back on this awesome podcast. And really respect all of your work. And you've had a lot of great people on here, and so it's an honor to be on here again.
Well, great. Well, tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
So, I graduated from Texas A&M back in 2019. Back whenever I was first on here, I was, I think, a sophomore.
Yep.
I
And
was
going to A&M, right?
Texas A&M, yes, sir, and I was chugging away at a business degree. I was able to knock that out. Graduated with honors from the Mays Business School. So you could say that I busted out of class.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
and
did.
um a lot of Bruce fans know me from the experience that I had with Bruce in Philadelphia back in 2016, where I basically held up a sign that said, "Can a college kid play No Surrender with you?" And I wrote all the chords to the song on the sign, and Bruce saw it, and he gave me a shot, and I did my absolute best to perform the song. And from there, a bunch of Bruce fans have, you know, told me told me all of their thoughts of the experience, and really applauded me. And it's led me to meet many great people just like yourself, and this like the Spring Nuts group. And it's really opened up a lot of doors, and it really kind of reignited my passion for music. And it was really just the beginning of like this big rabbit hole of just everything music. So
Yeah. I was thinking, I almost expect you to say, back then I was a business major, but I switched to music. But no.
I
Yeah,
I actually did look into that. I actually did. I
you
was
did-
like, I was like, maybe I kind of want to explore some music,
yeah.
the way how my music ended up going. I was still just so new to music at the time,
Yeah.
and I had just begun writing. I had only been playing guitar for about 9 months at the time. And
Yeah.
then it's like I pick up a guitar, I strum my first chord, and 9 months later, I'm on stage with Springsteen. It's pretty much all downhill from there.
I did.
But
I remember when we talked about that. That took a lot of courage,
it
right?
it I really didn't know what I was doing. But I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But I just, was in the moment, and I just kind of went away with it. And it was just kind of, it just it just happened. I was on like 3 hours of sleep from the night before. I guess my mind was just so blurred out. It was on pure adrenaline. I didn't really have time to process what was going on. I think it was just a perfect storm of things that happened that led to that performance.
Matthew, what was funny is just a couple weeks ago, I had someone on the podcast, and I can't remember the episode's been out or not, but um, he said, "Yeah, and I was at this Philadelphia show, and some kid held up a sign that said, 'Can a college kid play No Surrender?' And he had the chords." And I said, "I've had him on the show." "You're
You've had him on the
kidding."
show.
I'm like,
That is
"Oh,
super cool.
yeah." So that was really funny. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you're also responsible for one of my personal highlights is in the Houston show
Oh yeah,
with the
absolutely.
sign One Step Up.
Oh yeah, that was my pinnacle Bruce moment before the Philadelphia show for sure. I
Yeah,
had, because with the Houston show, the way how the they have a very small pit because it's an amphitheater type setup.
right.
So with that, it was like if you got a ticket up in the front, they were super expensive. But I was like, at the time, I was like, Dad, look, this is like the one time where we can see Bruce up close. Come on, and I somehow got him to spend. I forgot the exact amount, but it was a lot of money for like two tickets up close in the pit with Bruce. And where the typical lottery procedure works for Bruce shows, where 1,500 people show up, only 100 people showed up, but everyone gets to go to the front. But it's like an order of like which of like who gets to go up,
Hmm.
and so I was like, okay, what? This is my only shot to go and see him and like have a sign for him to play. I'm thinking to myself, what song do I want him to play? And I thought, one step up would be really cool, but how am I gonna do it? So I went on Google, like I found this really cool picture of him and Patty from on the Tunnel of Love tour, and I said, okay, like how can I make this stand out? And so I went on like a set list forum, and I found the last time he played the song with the full band.
Hmm.
And I still remember the date. It was June 21st, 1988. And so I like went on this website. I created this, like half-inch thick cardboard sign. It was like $100 it was well worth it. But
Hmm.
I put on the I put can we take a trip back to 88, and then last time played with the full band June 21st, 1988. And Bruce like, and on the back of it, just in Sharpie, I put Downbound Train. Like I totally just kind of did the Downbound Train as like a knockoff because he
Yeah.
plays Downbound Train way more often. I thought, okay, if he doesn't play this, then maybe Downbound Train. And so at the end of Badlands, or which was I think his third song, like he was going around picking up some signs, and I originally had Downbound Train up, and I saw him, and Bruce kind of looked at it. He acknowledged the sign, and then I saw his eyes kind of keep panning. He didn't grab it, and I looked, and I realized, oh man, like that's Downbound Train. So I flipped this sign over to One Step Up, and Bruce just he was
Yeah.
caught like he was caught like a deer in headlights. He was like, whoa, like his eyes got real wide, and he admired the sign for a minute, and then he was like he waved for me to give him the sign, and he kind of slowly walked over to the center mic, and he was showing everyone the One Step Up sign, like kind of nodding, like
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do this. And then he ended up playing a couple songs. I think he played Adam Raised a Cain after Badlands, and then he played She's the One. And then after She's the One, he grabbed the One Step Up sign, and he was like, man, we have a challenge here. And then he read out last time played with the full band, June 21st, 1988. And then he was like, he was born in 1988, you know?
Yeah.
And and my dad was going crazy. He was like, Matthew, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And then he ended up playing the song, and it was such a beautiful rendition of the song, and he hasn't played it since. And
Yeah.
I would like to also add in there that he did end up playing Downbound Train later in
Yeah.
the shows. So I got both of the requests.
Well, what I love about this, and when I tell the story, and I often talk about that, because it was such a great moment, but we do not know this. You have made your bed, sir. You know,
Yes.
and
You have
and
made
it,
your bed, sir.
and I love that, because he kind of, it starts out solo, kind of just,
Hmm.
and then he slowly, kind of waves at Patty to join him, and then he tells the band to do it slow. Yeah, it just truly one of my highlights. And so I always think about that. Most of us are lucky to get one really special moment with a Bruce live show, and you got two. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it was. I'm super super blessed for that.
yeah.
Honestly, I have no words to describe how
Hmm.
in incredible that was because with the Philly show, my goal was okay. How can I get Bruce to just remember me? Like how can he remember me?
Yeah,
And I'm pretty sure that I accomplished that. But what's crazy with all of those moments, I've never really gotten a ch- gotten a chance to really talk with him.
sure.
It was just like thank you so much. Like I
Hmm.
came from Houston for this. I thank you. I guess the one thing that could be cool would just be to have like a 3 or 4 minute long conversation
Yeah, that would be
with
cool.
Bruce. Just to
Yeah,
kind of pick his brain just a little bit.
yeah. So after you graduated, where are you living?
I live 5 minutes from my parents. Actually, I have this little townhouse to myself. I was appreciative of my parents' offer for me to live with them, but I was like, I think I need my own place.
Yeah.
But they're super close by, and I go visit them all the time. We're in Spring, Texas, still born and
Okay.
raised,
Yeah.
and I'm working for my dad's company. He does like water utility operations around Houston. So
Okay.
I'm just kind of learning that business as well, along with all of my side hobbies. I'm also a pilot as a hobby, and of course I've finally gotten around to making music, and I do have my very first album out, and super pleased with it. Um, About to get started on the second one, but
Mhm.
that's kind of where things are right now.
All right. Well, we're going to get back to that, but I got to, since I
Yeah.
have you on here, since we've talked, we've had a couple little things happen.
Hmm.
I'm not even talking about the pandemic. We had Western Stars, we had the
Hmm.
film, we had Broadway, and we had Letter to You.
Oh
Any of
yes.
those you want to talk about, feel free. Matthew.
Okay, alrighty, alrighty. I will try and touch say something about all of them. First
Yeah.
one, I guess, in like chronological order, was Springsteen on Broadway.
Yeah.
It was for my 21st birthday, and it was on my birthday when we got to see Springsteen on Broadway. I have a friend Justin who's from Utah. He he was able to. I was able to I had my computer out, he had his computer, and I was able to get in like the ticket window
Yeah.
thing to because they had a system for that, and I was able to lock him down to 2 tickets, and he said, "Hey, like, you have first grabs if, like, my buddy can't go." And so, long story short, his buddy couldn't go, so I was able to go,
Hmm.
and then my dad was like, "Oh, shoot, well, I wanna go." So my dad bought, like, a single ticket, like, up on like the second deck or whatever, and so we went there, and it was awesome. What an
Hmm.
incredible show that was, just seeing him just really raw Bruce. And
Yeah.
a little side note to that was it was game 7 of the 2017 infamous ALCS between the Yankees and the Astros, and
Yeah.
so game 7 was happening, and I'm in New York, and I'm this diehard Astros fan, and like, all of these things are I was thinking about the score of the game. Like, I didn't wanna get out my phone during the
Yeah.
show,
Of
and so
course not. Right.
yeah, oh, yeah, and so after the show, I was like, "Okay, I have to check the score," and the Astros were winning. I was like, "Oh, thank goodness," you know? So, like, those 2 things were going at the same time, but I love Broadway. It was super fun,
Hmm.
really cool New York experience. Western Stars, I'm a big fan of that album. It's a very cinematic, vibey album that, um, I've always been an advocate for the use of strings. I love
Yeah,
strings, and my favorite song off the album 100% is Western Stars by a long
right.
shot. I love that one. Just the acoustic guitar and that instrumental break in the middle where the strings all come in
Sure.
and just it's so cinematic. That's the word I can use to describe it. Um, but there's a lot of good songs on that album. I hope he can find a way to play a couple of them live or in some form of arrangement with the E Street Band.
Yeah.
Whenever he does eventually get back on tour.
Yeah,
But
I
then
do, I do too, because you know, they didn't get a full tour with that.
mhm.
We got the great film, which, we got to fall in love with his barn and go, man, gee, let's do a tour.
That would be
Let's,
cool.
yeah, that would be cool. And so
You
I
could
would
call it
love at
like you
least a
could
couple.
call it like his backyard tour,
Yes,
where people
exactly.
come to him.
Yeah. Uh, and then I'm like you. I just love Western Stars. I feel like it's a collection of short stories,
Mhm.
like even more than normal. And they're it's really something special. And then I got to know what you think. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's 2020. We've got racial, strife. We've got political strife, and all of a sudden,
Mhm.
like in the darkness, someone lights a candle, and it's a new E Street Band album. So, talk to me a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
about that.
You know, whenever whenever Letter to You came out, everyone kind of assumed that it would be some kind of political album,
Yeah,
and then Bruce came out and he was like, "No, it's not a political album." And I could tell all of on like Twitter, Steve and Niels in
yeah,
particular
yeah,
was I could tell they really wanted to talk about the album, but they know that they couldn't,
hmm,
or they knew that they couldn't, and Niels, after the album came out, was like, "This is one of my absolute favorite albums that we've ever
yeah,
done." Um, there's so many great songs on that album that are just classic E Street Band. Like,
yeah,
of course, if I was the priest, it's just such an anthem, and I can't wait for him to play that one.
yeah.
But
I am too.
and one of the one that gets really overlooked, a song that gets really overlooked, in my opinion, on that album, and I feel like it's a reason why Bruce put it first is 1 minute is 1 minute you're here. Everyone raised
Yeah,
their eyebrows of, okay, why would you put that one first when you could put, you know, any of
hmm,
them first? But that's whenever I go back to Letter to You, it's such a short, sweet ballad type song with harmonious synthesizers, very nighttime driving, just kind of in like you're kind of in your head, kind of in your feels type vibes.
yeah,
And I love music like that where you can just put it on repeat like 1 minute you're here.
yeah,
And it just really kind of gets you in a mood. And then but then as soon as it ends, that snare drum, pa pa pa, right into Letter to You. It's
yeah.
such, then the party pretty much gets started there.
It
And
really
so,
does. Yeah.
that's a classic East Street album right there. And I think it's top three of since the 2000s, in my opinion, honestly.
I honestly think so too. I agree.
Hmm.
It is something just really special. So um had you have, I mean, you said about 9 months before Philadelphia, where you got on stage, you had just started exploring the guitar.
Hmm.
So you had a music itch, but how big of an itch was it? And did getting on stage kind of make it even more where you were interested in doing this?
So what was crazy about the timing of all of that was I did have a musical itch at the time, but
Yes.
I didn't know how to record music. I
Okay.
had no idea how to record music. I knew very minimal stuff like in GarageBand, how to
Okay.
record music.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, whenever my album came out, I'm thinking to myself, man, if I had gotten on stage then,
Hmm.
it's like Good Morning America, World News Tonight,
Yeah.
the Today Show, and all of these radio shows and podcasts and
Yeah.
news stations. I'm like, that could have been the ultimate publicity, but
Yeah.
I simply didn't have any music out at the time. Even
Yeah.
I had managers from Live Nation contacting me about, hey, like send us your music, like, we would like to,
Yeah.
and I'm like, shoot, like I wish I had stuff, but you know, and but I just kind of stayed the course. I was like, and I kept working on my craft subtly, and
Hmm.
a lot of life happened from from then until when my
Yeah.
first album came out, and
Yeah.
the musical passion kind of waned a little bit. I mostly wrote as like an outlet, and um so it was kind of few and far between whenever it came to music and like songwriting, but it eventually, I think, at the very end of 2020, it finally started to ramp back up. But at the time of getting on stage, I was still very new, and
Yeah.
I just didn't know what, like, I was just very ignorant in that whole
Yeah.
field.
So when you decided to start pursuing this and working on it and playing with it, what were your first steps? I mean, so you started writing. Talk me a little bit about your process and your journey of, how do you get from I'm starting to have an interest to, hey, I'm gonna record an album. I mean, that's A to Z, right? That's a hell of a
Mhm,
journey.
mhm. So it really started when I wrote my first happy love song, and
Okay.
it was on it's a song Only You, and I wrote it back in November of 2020, and for me, it was such a breakthrough in my songwriting that I was like, "Man," because all of my songs were sad,
Okay.
just to put it bluntly, all of my songs
Yeah.
were sad, so whenever I wrote that song, I was like, "Oh my gosh," and it kinda lit this flame of like, okay, now I want this song to sound good. So I started reaching out to family, friends, and some people that I knew something about music. And a good family friend of mine hooked me up with my now music producer, and he had and it was honestly a match made in heaven,
Oh yeah.
and oh yeah, absolutely. His taste in music is very similar to mine. I sent him a demo of my song Austin Tonight, which is on my album, and it's the very first song I ever wrote. And
Hmm.
he was like, there's some Springsteen influence in here." And he had
Yeah.
no idea of any that I was even a Springsteen fan.
Hmm.
This guy didn't really know who I was.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, all right. And so then we just kind of got to it. And once that kind of started to happen, I started writing more and more and more, and it just kind of like what prevented me from pursuing music further was, okay, I can write these songs and I can play them acoustically, but I don't know how to record them. I don't know how to get them to sound like something on the radio or like on even like
Yeah.
on the coffee house on like Sirius XM.
Right.
I had no way to get them out. And so it was just kind of like, well, until then, I don't want to pursue it.
Yeah.
But so my producer really just ignited it. It was like, "Oh my gosh, this is now possible."
Yeah.
So we really got to work, and it was, looking back, I don't know how we did it. Like,
Yeah.
because I was still working full time, and I would just come home from work, do some music, go work out, come back, do more music, go to bed, repeat, repeat,
Yeah.
repeat, and it was just really a a a process. But looking back at the time, it was like all of the songs, I did them as best as I could. Of course,
Right.
as an artist, you look back and you think to yourself, "Man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I could have done this." And
Yeah.
oh, if you're always trying to better your craft in every single way. And so going into my next album, there's a couple of things where I'm really emphasizing on, okay, this will put me to the next step. This will
Yeah.
bring me to the next step. That along with just all of this recording stuff, all this sound stuff that I got, this microphone's brand new. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of new recording equipment that I've gotten that's going to really elevate the sound and production to the next level, and I'm super excited about it.
That's great. You know, one of my favorite comments is there's the writer J. Michael Straczynski, who had done Babylon 5 and done a lot of other stuff. And he often says art is never finished. Art is never finished. It's just abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Tom Zoller talks about that he will never get a tattoo because he would have to have, as an artist, he would have to design it himself. And he's never drawn anything that when he went back in 6 months, he wasn't unhappy with it and saw the
Mm-hmm.
flaws. So I think that as a musician, that's pretty typical, right? That you're going,
Totally.
maybe could have done this. What would do that?
Totally. Like, for example, one of the things that, you know, looking back on that I kind of realized, but I didn't know it at the time was, the way how I sang the songs.
Right.
There was ways the way how I sang some of the songs, I sung them in the way as if I was playing them like acoustically.
Right.
There's like if you have a full band, it's like sometimes you got to be more intense
Yes.
and but and so that's one thing that I'm focusing on for the next album is to really sing with what the arrangement calls for. But at the time, it was like, it felt safe to sing it the way how I'd always sung it.
Yeah.
It was all so foreign to me. I didn't really know what to, I was just kind of rolling with the punches and doing it the way how I had always done. And
Yeah.
another thing was like the tempo of the songs. I'm like, man, this song could have been sped up a little bit, and it could have cut off some length and this and that and come off a little more upbeat because like Bruce can get away with writing a 6, 7 minute long song, but in this generation for an artist that, wants people to, listen to him, you like if you have a song that's sadly longer than 4.5, 5 minutes, people are going to become disinterested. So like one of my emphasized points was to at least shoot for 4 minutes
Yeah.
or less. I already have a couple songs that are past 4 minutes, but they're at least a lot more upbeat
Okay.
and there is one song where my producer was like, "This is like a modern day Springsteen jam," and
Nice.
it's something that he says, "Man, the E Street Band could totally play this song and it would come off as like a Bruce song." And so I'm super excited
That's a nice compliment.
to finish working on that one.
Yeah. So what's the name of the album?
I haven't decided on the album title yet.
Your first
I'm kind
album.
of okay. So the first album's called Into the Past,
Got it.
and yes, sir. It's called Into the Past, and it's basically about you've been like you've had doubts about like it's the moral of the album is you've had doubts about something, but you've decided to move forward and take those doubts and put those doubts into the past. Life goes on.
Yeah.
It's about overcoming yourself,
Hmm.
and about overcoming things that you've gone through in your life. And I like that message, and because it's something that people have to deal with,
Yeah.
because things happen to them in life, and whether it's been wronged by someone else or you're battling yourself,
Hmm.
or or you feel like everyone's against you, or just whatever it is, it's about overcoming all of those things, and it's something that I feel like people could use for themselves and in their lives to, I guess, give them some courage.
That's great. I really love that. I love the title. I love the theme. Um, have you been able to perform live a little with everything slowly opening up in here in Texas?
So I have been asked to perform live at a few places in downtown Houston. I have not gotten around to it yet, but I really, really want to. I just
Okay.
haven't had I just haven't had a lot of time, spare time on my hands.
Okay.
Um, but it's definitely on my radar to do because I love being on stage. I love performing.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that I like playing, so it's definitely something that I want to do in the future.
Do you think you'll try to, with the next album, try to hit some of the local, like, Austin, Dallas, Houston, like Mucky Ducks and, Port David's Pub and all these other,
Hmm.
venues that are, kind of can do the Texas Triangle to try to,
Hmm.
as a singer-songwriter kind of work it.
Totally. That's definitely on the table. It's a lot of that. I guess the logistics that go behind that is finding musicians that you're comfortable with, that know your
Yeah.
music, that can help bring out your music really well,
Hmm.
um, and that can play all your music along with covers
Yeah.
and things like that. Like I would love to perform. Like
Yeah.
it's uh it's something that it's kinda like at the crossroads, it's
Right.
like, I think with my next album, though, it'll really give me a really good idea about, once I get the feedback on album number
Mhm.
2,
Yeah.
I will know a lot more because I'm really putting a lot into this next album, and I'm already very pleased with, the initial results from it, with, like, with what we've got going. Because you listen to a lot of artists like with Bruce, it's like Greetings is like a great album, but not a lot of people listen to Greetings as like their album of choice, along with many first albums from a lot of artists.
Yeah.
They kind of find themselves like they discovered their sound, and they they learn a lot, and then they take that and then
Hmm.
they really double down and go right at it for their next couple albums, and it either works or it doesn't. So,
Yeah.
we're
So, Matthew, where's the best place for us to find your music?
Apple Music,
Okay.
Spotify, um, YouTube, Pandora, Amazon Music.
Okay.
It's available on pretty much every major streaming platform
Okay.
that you can find.
Did you do any hard copies at all?
I did.
Okay.
You can find if anyone wants to reach out to me like on Facebook or something, and they
Yeah.
want like a CD, I'm happy to send them one.
Good.
At the annual Spring Nuts thing, I brought I think like 10 or 15 of them, and they all got snatched by some people, and
Good.
it was really cool seeing like for them asking like, oh mate, can you sign it, and
Yeah.
oh yes, sign, and like it made me really feel special. Honestly, it was a really cool
Yeah.
moment for me.
Tell me
um
tell me about that. Tell me about visiting and how that worked.
it was a lot of fun. Howie was, obviously such a gentleman. He was very, very nice. He, made sure to make sure that everyone felt safe and like try to take all the precautions that he could. He had it outside, and um, I came, and me and Jake and I think his name is Joe. Uh, I
Okay.
I'm not sure what the other guy's name was. I just had it in my name. I'm sorry, in my head,
That's
but
okay. I
it w
understand.
it was a lot of fun. It was kinda like the singer-songwriter circle,
Yeah.
and, we just kinda traded off singing songs, and I played one of my originals that will be on my new album.
Nice.
It'll probably be my first sing it'll probably be my first single called "Upward Fall,"
Okay.
and, uh, so I was able to play that one for some fans, and it got a lot of good feedback, and it was just a lot of fun seeing everyone again. Given that 2020 it was
Sure.
all just online, which was a lot of fun for me because I was able to play a lot longer,
Right.
and so it was kind of in the comfort of my own home, and I was able to just kind of go on off the cuff and play requests, and I had a piano to work with as well. So it was a really cool experience, but there's nothing better than in person. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think that's great. So, when do you think the new album will be out?
That's a very good question. I am shooting for, let's see. I should start recording probably next week because
Okay.
I have the family friend sound guy that's coming tomorrow to dial in all of my new equipment. I just finished uh my music room to actually be like like a professional sound room. And so
Yeah.
once that gets knocked out, it's kind of full steam ahead. I think maybe sometime in the summertime. I think
Nice.
is a really good timeline for it.
Well, when you have it ready to go, you'll have to come on. We'll
Absolutely.
set it up so you can sing a few songs, talk about them. And I am so hoping that you get to tour, and that I get even if you don't have a band with you, just an acoustic tour to get you out there. I'd love to see you in person and hear some music. And I am definitely going to go check it out. I've sampled a few things on your YouTube channel, and
Mhm.
so I now want to buy the whole album because I like what I'm hearing.
Well, that really means a lot. I like all the music on there, and just looking back, it was like just the things that were going through my head as I was, recording, and when my
Yeah,
producer would send me, new mixes of songs, just the awe that was going through my head of, oh my gosh, this is my song, and
yeah,
there's like a full band to it, and like it's everything that I've ever wanted was just my music in this to sound professional. It was
yeah,
honestly such a dream come true for me. And so once I got a taste of that, I was like, okay, let's up this a little bit, and let's try and capitalize and just try and tweak some things, and let's really
yeah,
get after it, and let's put both of our heads together even harder, and let's try and make something awesome. So
yeah.
it's definitely it is definitely like a new standard, because my standard before was, okay, I just want it to sound professional. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
just getting my feet wet. Now it's like, okay, this now I really kind of know the direction that I want to go. So.
Yeah, that no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. So Matthew, tell the audience what's the best way to, you've already talked about where you can find the music, but if they want to reach you,
Mhm.
what's the best way?
You can reach me through Facebook, Twitter,
Okay.
Instagram.
Okay.
Those are like any of my social media,
Okay.
really. And it's just my first and last name, Aucoin. It's kind of a hard last name to spell, but uh,
Matthew
that
Aucoin. Yep. Yep.
yes,
Uh,
and so
and there is um, a classical musician with the same name.
I
So if you
know
do a
it's so annoying.
if you do a Google search, because this guy's got some chops, right? So it's like,
hmm
yeah, that's pretty funny.
And I'm like, man, come on, like that's
Yeah,
like the last name is so
yeah. What are the
random. You would
odds? That
think, what
right?
are the odds? My first and last name is the same as this guy. It doesn't make
Yeah,
any sense. Come on.
absolutely. That's hilarious. Um,
hmm
that is wonderful. I'm so happy for you. I'm thrilled. I just wish you a lot of success
I
and
really
continue.
appreciate it, and I wish you all the best as well. It's always fun coming on here,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to come on again. Hopefully, I can see you in person
Absolutely. And
soon.
so we'll have you on with the new album. And so everyone go check out Matthew's music. As he said, it's on Spotify, on every other platform, you know, s- spring for it. And, let's give him a few bucks to, he's a struggling musician during a nighttime, in the day gig, doing that. Matthew, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Listeners, go get vaccinated, go get boosted. Let's all be good to each other, because that's how we're going to get through this. Matthew, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye.
All right. See you, Jesse.
I want and need your feedback. You can reach me multiple ways to tell me what you like or don't like about the show. You can reach out to give me guest suggestions or maybe to join me on the podcast yourself. We're on Twitter at SetListingBruce or at Jesse Jackson DFW. I have an Instagram, SetListingBruce or Jesse Jackson DFW. Our Facebook page, facebook.com/setlistingbruce. Go to patreon.com/setlistingbruce to find out how you can support the show, and we have several tiers of support. Please go to your favorite podcast player and hit subscribe. And tell a friend about the podcast because that is the way we're going to grow. If you're not tired of hearing me speak, you can hear me on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where Charles Skaggs and I talk all things Doctor Who. The How Many podcast, where me and my friends Gary, Scott, Bob, and Jr. talk pop culture. And finally, my newest podcast, The Last Best Hope for Conversation, a Babylon 5 podcast, where Karen, Lou, and I are going through the TV show Babylon 5 one episode at a time. I am always looking for guests, so please reach out to me, setlustingbruce@gmail.com.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.